Joining us now, a man who will help us do that. Blaine Fowler, national championship quarterback for BYU in 1984 and college football insider. Blaine, let's start with the easy question today. Is it New Year's Six or bust for BYU football?
Gosh, I don't like the word bust because I think New Year's Six has to be the goal for the team, for the coaches, for the fans going into the season. If you're not going out and playing for that to start with, then that's messed up to begin with. But I don't like the word bust because it's okay to be disappointed if you don't get there. So if you get to midseason and you've got 2 losses and one of those isn't against the top 10 team, you kind of have to readjust. So you're disappointed that maybe that's not the goal anymore, but you gotta be able to move forward and plow forward because there's other things you can play for. So I think the goal has to be New Year's Six. But if they have a rough September, if you say bust, let's just not play anymore. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's like every corner goes into a game saying, I will not get beat over the top for a touchdown in this game, period. That's my goal. I am not going to get beat. Well, what happens if on the first drive they throw a touchdown over the top of you? Like, go to the sideline, well, coach, my goal was to not give up a touchdown. Now I did, so just forget the whole rest of the game. I'm not going to cover the rest of it. Because I didn't want to give up a touchdown, and I did in the first minute of the game. So you know what? You better put somebody else in because my goal is lost. So it can't be bust. It's got to be go into it with a mindset that you got a senior quarterback. You're going to be better defensively. On offense, you should be lights out with that guy. And with the talent you have around him and a more experienced offensive line, so, yeah, our mindset ought to be New Year's Six. But if they lose 2 in September, we just give up?
No way.
You readjust your goals. It's not bust. Bust is the wrong word.
Blaine Fowler with us on BYU Sports Nation. Take it away, Michael.
Blaine, I agree with you, man. Now, what would you say now if we lose 2 games? And there's a BYU fan out there wondering this. Well, what if it's not New Year's Six? What are you playing for?
Well, you're playing for a national ranking. That ought to be. You can still get to double-digit wins, and you're playing for a national ranking. And I think that that's been the case every year, regardless of where BYU was. When they were in the Mountain West Conference, and before that when they were in the WAC, I know that the coaches always had coach speak and said, hey, our first goal is always to win the conference championship. Lavelle used to say that every year. First goal is to win the conference championship. Well, I'm here to tell you that the 5 years that I was in the program from 1981 to 85, we listened to that and went, yeah. If we're not ranked in the top 15, we're going to be disappointed. Who cares about the WAC championship? And who cares about the Mountain West Conference championship? If we're not ranked in the top 15, who cares? See, but back in those days, you could be, you could win the conference championship and lose 2 or 3 games and not be ranked. To me, that was not good. Who cares if you win the Mountain West and you're not ranked in the top 15? That's what I say. To me, that's a bigger goal. And for teams in different, like if you're in the Pac-12 and you win the Pac-12, well, you're going to be ranked in the top 15. That's a given. But when I hear these people say, maybe we should just go back to the Mountain West Conference, I just laugh out loud at that. That's ridiculous. Who cares about that conference? When you're an independent, you're playing for a national ranking, and you can lose 2 games in September and still get to 10 wins and still be ranked at the end of the season. To me, that's what the goal ought to be.
Blaine Fowler with us on BYU Sports Nation, breaking down today's Twitter question, is it New Year's Six or bust for BYU football? And if it's not, what are the Cougars playing for? He says a national ranking, which I agree with wholeheartedly. That is the next step. I mean, Blaine, the last time BYU finished with a national ranking and double-digit wins was 2011. We're coming up on 4 years. And so for this guy in Scout.com previewing BYU's football season to say that 2 losses means the season is effectively over just seems ludicrous to me. How do you feel about that?
If he's using that rationale, then even teams that are not independent, that are in conferences, then should just throw away the season. Because if Utah goes 2-2 in September, they're not playing in New Year's Six either. So is that just... what should they just quit at that point? Should UCLA if they lose 2 games early because it's really not any different. It's hard from any conference outside of the SEC to lose 2 games in the regular season and play in a New Year's Six bowl. But it's equally hard to go undefeated. Anyone in the country. I mean, that's everybody's goal at the beginning of the year. I think USC, with what they have coming back, should feel like they should be undefeated this year. Alabama thinks they should be undefeated every single solitary year. But Is that really realistic for those teams? The ability to go undefeated is almost out of the question for every program in the country. We just don't have that many undefeated teams from year to year, but every team goes into the season with that goal, and then they readjust. So to me, if you're saying, hey, if BYU loses two games, then it's done, why? Because they're an independent? Then that's the case for everybody in the country. We know that's not the case. And
Amen. Amen, brother.
So conference or no conference, I don't think it's lost season if they lose 2 in September. And you know what? Realistically, they could lose 2 in September. They could go on to win 9 regular season games and win a bowl game, whether it's the Vegas Bowl or the Hawaii Bowl, and finish 10-3. And still, heck, they could lose 2 in September and win 10 regular season games and finish 11-2 and be ranked in the top 15. To me, that's not a failure. So saying that the season's over at the end of September, I don't even think it's over if they're 1-3 in September. I'll be really, really disappointed. But again, that word bust, to me, the season won't be a bust until I see what happens. And part of that is, say they go 2-2 in September. Now, I want to watch those 2 teams that they lost to. Say they lose to Nebraska and UCLA in September. UCLA is in a lot of people's top 10.
Yeah.
And then say we get to 8 weeks in the season, UCLA is 8-0, and Nebraska has kind of a surprising season, and they're 8-0 at that point. Were those 2 bad losses?
No.
That's why you have to let it play out. And so 2-2, I won't know if that's a bad 2-2 or a good 2-2 until I get 8 or 9 weeks into the season.
In terms of a final record, Blaine, I just want to get your take on this. What would be considered like success for BYU in 2015?
With this schedule, and I've been saying this all along, if 9 regular season wins to me is what I expect them to do if Taysom Hill stays healthy. And it's twofold. Taysom has to stay healthy, and the defense needs to get back to the mentality, and Michael, you can attest to this. They just have to manage points. I don't even care if they're top 20 in the country in total defense. All I care about is that they manage points. So if they make teams drive long fields and they keep the points down, and so they're right up there in the top 10 in scoring defense in the country, then this is a team that should win 9 games or I'll be disappointed. 10 wouldn't surprise me. That would be, now I would think that now we're talking about a very successful season. 11 wins to me is a phenomenal season. So I expect 9. I'd be really happy with 10. And 11, I'd go, wow, this is a great season at 11. 8 is going to be a disappointment to me. 8's a disappointment. So I'm right there on that borderline. 8's a disappointment. 9, I'm good with. 10, I'm happy.
Absolutely.
11, I'm jumping up and down and high-fiving people.
Yes.
Now, and the thing is, with Taysom Hill, I said this off the top of the show, because of the way he is and the game changer that he is, BYU has a shot in every single game they play, right? Doesn't matter if they have a shot to win every game on that schedule.
Absolutely, and that's why I give that little caveat that those are my win expectations if they keep Taysom upright the whole season, right? If he's there the whole season, he just gives them a shot because he can single-handedly take over a game. He can just take over a game and will a team to a win. And when you got somebody that's doing that on the offensive side, it just seems like it carries over to the defense, and they get energy. When they see a quarterback turn a corner, run over a guy, run through 2 guys and hurdle a guy at the goal line, all of a sudden the defense gets fired up and they play better the next series. So he has an impact on the whole team with his ability to just change things out on the field. So, yeah, Spencer, you're exactly right. If he's healthy the whole season, there's not a single game that they can't win. Now, they won't be favored in every game, but there's not a game that you go into feeling like, man, they can't beat UCLA on the road. There's no way. No, there's a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance?
So you're saying there's a chance.
I was waiting for that.
Yes, I am.
Now, we want to take you back to a question we asked our BYU Sports Nation friends last week. So if you could give me a quick answer here, Blaine, that would be fabulous. Which BYU newcomer will have the greatest impact this season? Brian Logan said Eric Takanaka. I said Johnny Linehan because I feel like the punter is a weapon. Which guy not on the roster last year that's here this year will have the greatest impact?
Okay, just to give another view, I'm going to say Micah Hanneman.
Ah, okay.
And so because I agree that Takanaka is going to have a big impact. I think on the offensive side, Nick Kurtz, but we can't count him as a newcomer because he was here last year.
Right.
He was just hurt.
Right.
But the first time people see him on the field. So on offense, he's going to make big things happen and take pressure off of Matthews on the other side. But I think if we're going pure newcomers, weren't on the team last year, I would go Takanaka and Hanneman. And I think Takanaka is going to have an impact earlier in the season, but I think by the end of the season, Micah Hanneman is going to be a regular making plays, and people are going to go, wow, this is the kind of player we need to have in the secondary, because he's one of the best combinations of size, athleticism, so all those things they look for, but he's a smart football player that's going to be where he's supposed to be. And for that reason, I think by the time the season's over, we're going to go, wow, Hanneman had a huge impact this year.
Blaine, great stuff. We appreciate the emotion and the passion. As always, Micah Hanneman right now listed as the starting boundary cornerback for those wondering. Great to have you on the show, Blaine.
Thanks, Blaine.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Our Twitter question today, is it New Year's 6 or